want to go through the Chum briefing update real quick. Senator McCray is otherwise engaged and could not be with us today. But I'm just going to give you all a quick update from Annapolis. Right there, you all see the big check that Senator McCray presented to the community on June the 3rd. It's for $200,000, and it's for the scattered site renovation work that's going on along Coldstream Road. Yeah, kudos to Senator McCray, because we technically have only been in his district 6 months. And in that time, he has moved to not only help us with that, but he also is helping us bridge the gap for the new stadium that's coming at Clifton Park. Now, for those of you who don't know, and primarily because of the great work he did and where we're located at this meeting today, the additional gap money, a little over $1.25 million that the senator made available to us for the stadium, is going to be named after Chum's own Senator Robert Dalton. For those of you who don't know, Senator Dalton used to live right across the street on Cecil Avenue up until his time of passing. We were able to honor him before he passed by having the street named after Senator Dalton, and of course it continues with this new facility coming to Clifton Park. Now, we also have a state doorbell camera grant, and we are accepting offers, and thus far we are accepting indications of interest in bids from Milton Electric, Cold Electric, and Mustang Electric. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going throughout the community, getting individuals to sign up for doorbell cameras, and then of course those doorbell cameras will be professionally installed by one of the selected electric companies. So that is happening. We will start installation of those doorbell cameras for those of you who signed up earlier. We're going to start at the end of this month in June. Transportation real quick, for those of you who don't know and weren't at the last Chum community meeting, we brought CSX out to the Chum community meeting because the Huffer Road Bridge is going to be raised so that CSX trains can carry stacked cargo. Now, obviously, there were a lot of concerns raised from the community, and rightly so, about what's going to be happening there. But we knew that we were having this special meeting with Department of Housing and Community Development and Planning tonight. So at the July Chum community meeting, CSX will be back. They were given a lot of, I think, really good questions from the residents of Chum, and we're hoping that they come back and provide us with answers. This is something that is going to not only impact the community as a whole, but it's also going to impact Clifton Park. I want to talk about some of the things that we are doing with new business development. I'm glad Caroline's here. Caroline opened a spa and health facility on 25th Street called Equilibrium. That spa at one time was over in Remington. She decided that what we had to offer here in Chum was very enticing. And so she moved her whole facility and program to Chum, completely renovating the facility at Lock Raven and 25th Street. It's absolutely wonderful work that's going on there for health and fitness. But that being said, we also have the holistic massage spa that's on Lock Raven and Exeter Hall, and at Shepherd's Clinic on Kirk Avenue, the Joy Wellness Center. I mentioned all three of those to say, if you're feeling stressed, things are getting you down in the community, pressure's building up, we have not one, not two, but 3 locations that will provide holistic medicine and therapy for you in the neighborhood. We are also working with an operator of a senior daycare. And we're going to be bringing that senior daycare, actually the work has already started, to 901 25th Street. And so they've been in there diligently working. We've met today, that progress is continuing. It's a part of building a sustainable community that addresses and meets the needs across all spectrums. Young, not so young, and those who, of course, are caring for their elderly loved ones. With regards to education, Reach school board meeting is coming up in July. The reason why I mention this is because it's going to be important for us to work with Reach. Interest in full disclosure, I am on the board of Reach, because the CSX Railroad is going to be a lengthy project, and it's going to impact the way the kids get to and from school. It's also going to have an impact on stadium construction there in Clifton Park. And so not only is there going to be a board meeting, but there's also going to be a meeting where we're going to invite the community out to hear some of the concerns from Reach. For those of you who don't know, we embarked on a mission, John, I want to say it was maybe 6 to 8 years ago, to attract an end user for the Lake Clifton campus. We were fortunate working with the city of Baltimore and the planning department. We held one of these events at Clifton Mansion. At that time, we were hoping to attract someone to the Lake Clifton campus that not only had beneficial programming for the neighborhood, but also had the capacity and the funding in place to do what is needed at that 63-acre campus. From Heaven came Kim McCallum and Morgan, and we started working out that deal. So Morgan is going to be relocating, or should we say expanding, to a new southern campus. They're going to start with the construction of a convocation center. But from there, the dreams get bigger. Dr. Wilson, not the Dr. Wilson here, but the Dr. Wilson at Morgan wants to do research. And we have been pushing them in that direction. For those of you who are familiar with the research triangle in North Carolina, it provides not only jobs, but it provides jobs with good pay, good research, and it helps to expand, quite frankly, educational opportunities for young people in North Carolina. It is our hope that we would be able to bring to the table Morgan and Johns Hopkins to take a look at how we can build this research quad in this area. For those of you who don't know, the Chum office is at City College High School. We look across the street at Johns Hopkins and Eastern every day. The hospital is less than 1.5 miles away from here. And of course, the university is less than 2 miles from where we stand. And so we're looking to bring that here, because what does that mean? It means individuals moving into our neighborhood that will help sustain our community. It means jobs, it means new housing inventory, and it means that individuals, faculty, staff, and others will look to our neighborhood as a way to not only sustain their life, but to also give us a hand up in improving our neighborhood. Traffic calming, we are going back to DOT for this fight. Kudos to DOT for putting a stop sign up there, but they should feel our wrath, because what we had there before worked so much better, which was a traffic camera that essentially took images of individuals rolling through that intersection at Gorsuch Avenue and Homewood. And for those of you who don't know, that's where Abbotston Elementary School is. And so even though there's a crossing guard there, we felt that they diminished the value of our youth by removing that camera and simply replacing it with a stop sign. We stood there a couple of weeks ago with the council person and residents in that area, and we watched individuals roll through that stop sign like it wasn't even there. So we are going back to that fight. As you all know, 2 years ago, we opened the first new pathway in Clifton Park. A lot of people thought we were crazy, but Rita Church, who is one of Chum's own, the rec center there, we wanted to have a way to connect South Clifton Park and those neighborhoods to the new school. So we had a walkway constructed. We are now pushing to have a walkway or pathway constructed that will connect Bel Air Road to St. Lo Drive. I challenge any of you to walk Indian Head safely, because it's not happening, because there is no sidewalk for you to walk on, and it becomes a very real challenge. So we're pushing them on that. The other thing that kind of ticks me off with DOT, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here, is the fact that they felt it was necessary to put barriers up to protect the historic Valve House, forcing our kids when Lake Clifton was open to walk in the head on traffic on St. Louis Drive. We're going to look to undo that. Sanitation, obviously, we are thankful and grateful for Clean Core and our partners at planning and Civic Works for that. Father's Day community pitch-in, Ms. Line. This Father's Day community pitch-in will be in the northern part of Coldstream at Homewood and Homestead is where we place the dumpsters. You all will get flyers for that. Summer youth programs, we're doing Juneteenth. Steel Drum is doing music program, and of course, Youth Works. And the last thing that I want to leave you all with is this. The historic band show will be shut down as improvements and work to repair it begins. That does not mean the band show road will shut down, just the band show. So we're going to see those improvements there. And the last thing, and I should mention this, I'm not going to get upset, is economic and community development hearing coming up on the 20th down at City Hall. It's a use regulation for residential care facilities. A lot of you all live in neighborhoods with quote unquote residential care facilities, essentially rooming houses, group houses, that type of thing. Those are things that are needed, but we don't need such a heavy concentration in our neighborhood.
Thank you so much for coming out. This is a super important meeting. Being an impact investment area, designated area in the city means that we'll be getting a lot of special attention to accomplish the goals in the community. And so that's what this meeting is about. I'm super excited that y'all could be here. It's so awesome to see everybody in person, yay! So I look forward to the dialogue today, and thanks to the planning department, DHCD, DPW, DOT, we've got them all here for you. We got the 18 here for you. And I'm looking forward to the discussion, so thanks a lot.
Thank you all tonight. First, I want to get to the commissioner, but I want to acknowledge all the planning and HCD staff here. We have quite a bit. Could you raise your hands? Yeah. Half a dozen community planners, program officers, assistant commissioners, as well as the commissioner. So thank you for having us today. I have been in Mark's shoes in two different parts of the city, so I know what you all are trying to do. And this is really your opportunity to sort of kick this off and start to document the ideas you have for improving your neighborhood. We have lots of people here to help you with that, to record your thoughts and ideas, and to get us off to a good start documenting this neighborhood and the way you feel of it. You all know it takes a lot of people a long time to change a neighborhood. We've all been there. It can take, the first time I took a job like this, I told my wife it would take 5 years. The second time I told her it would take 10. But the reality is it never ends, right? We're always trying to make our neighborhood better, right? Because we're always trying to give a better neighborhood to our kids, to our nephews and nieces, or whoever else is following us. And there are lots and lots and lots of ways that you can get involved. You can get involved with your school. You can volunteer with the community association that Mr. Washington so ably heads. You can work your block clean, safe. You can plant flowers. You can plant trees. You can help with an after-school program. You can start a business. And there are any number of things you can do, and I hope will do in an ongoing way to improve your neighborhood. So we're here tonight with data, to help you with data, to understand what's going on behind the scenes in your neighborhood. Not everything is the way it looks, so we can help you figure out what's really going on, what's really impacting your neighborhood, and help you figure out how to improve it. The commissioner and I are really proud and excited about the fact that this Scott administration has created this tool we call a neighborhood sub-cabinet. And that allows us to hold other city agencies accountable for the things we talk about tonight. So that's why we're really excited about this kickoff in this process. You know, city government, the thing I hear most often is left hand on talking right hand. Well, we have a system, we think, to have all the hands in the city talking to each other, including some of the things Mark was talking about, like the department. So with that, I'll wind up and I would like to introduce Commissioner Alice.
I just want to say a thank you to Mark for his leadership and his commitment to Trump. And now he can go get chair. I wanted to make sure that he's and all the other partners on the board, the partners that we have at Civic Works within the community. I know Mr. Seacott, so good to see you as well. All of the board members of the community association that are here, all of the residents that are here today. You heard Director Ryer, you've heard the Councilman Ramos talk about this, but this is something that we want to talk to you about tonight in terms of the neighborhood sub-cabinet, what that means for an impact investment area, kind of what the structure is, what are some of the conversations that have been happening with kind of the leaders in the community, what some of those plans are looking like, and we want to get feedback from you all, residents, on how does this look? Does this make sense to you? Do we want other things? Do we need to think differently? How do you feel? How can we continue to help, and making sure that you know about what the type of investments are that we're talking about and the type of allocations of funding to the community, what this means, the resources that are available, not just, we're going to be talking about tackling vacant buildings and vacant properties, but we're also tackling and talking about our existing residents as well within this conversation. So if we can, okay. So I know it's a little bit hard to see right now on the screen, but I'm just going to go over with you just a brief overview kind of the makeup of this work within the impact investment areas. There's a number of impact investment areas across the city. We happen to be in one. And there's a component to this, which tonight is kind of the base. In the next slide, you'll see it's a pyramid structure. But this is the base. This is the community conversation. This is some of the most, and the most important piece of this is working with the community on these planning components, working with the community to help ensure that decisions are being made and steps are being taken to support you all that have been here. Some of you have lived their entire lives in the community, and some are new residents, and we want to ensure that we are working in concert with you, that we're working in respect of that, in respect of that history, in respect of the culture of the community, as we look in terms of making changes and tackling the vacant properties and some of the other things that wreak havoc on the community and that I know caused a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and the other components that come around with some of that vacancy and decline and neglect. So that's why this community conversation is so important. And it's so important to have everybody's feedback and everybody's voice a part of that. So that's what we're going to be beginning here, working with the planning department, getting that input on the implementation strategies. And that's why it's at the base, because it's the kind of the core kind of strength of that that's going to help everything else. Then we have the kind of agency planning and implementation working groups. Those are held on a monthly to 5 to 6 week basis. It depends on the community, what the goals are, how frequently they're meeting. So that working group happens with city agencies, with community leadership. So it's kind of like community conversations, and then that goes up, and that working group, those regular working groups have been happening. So those are, like we said, monthly to 5 or 6 week, depending upon the cadence that the community wants for those working groups. And all that goes up to the mayor's neighborhood sub-cabinet, which is a quarterly meeting for each community. And in that, there's issues that might be brought up at the working group level there's two things with it. One, sometimes there are issues that are brought up to the mayor's level so that the mayor can help us get that movement, right? Or the chief administrative officer for the city, CAO Beach, can help us get that movement. Because, I'm the housing commissioner, we have Director Ryer as director of planning, and we work great with our colleagues, but sometimes, you work great with your siblings, but sometimes as the oldest sibling or just a sibling, you can't get your siblings to do something. Sometimes you have to go to your parents to get them to help you kind of make something happen. And I am kind of equating that, but sometimes it is at that level. We need the mayor, the CAO, et cetera, to help us just finalize and make some final decisions or coordinate. We bring to the attention at that level information about maybe some funding gaps that we might have on specific projects or specific kind of transportation components or traffic calming or things that we really want to have on the radar screen to make sure that we're all in agreement on in terms of how we're going to tackle that to get this either problem solved, get something unstuck, but also at the neighborhood sub-cabinet level, we celebrate the wins. And we celebrate and look at the progress that's been made, where we are, and what's happening. So that's kind of that tip point of how this all works. This is now our fourth. This is our fourth community conversation within the impact investment areas. We've been over on the west side, we were down in Southwest, and Johnson Square. So we keep moving around to all the different neighborhoods to have these. But like I said, this is extremely important for us because this is a partnership. This isn't, we don't want this to be it is a partnership because that partnership really is at the crux of what we're doing, which is trying to revitalize, support, and oftentimes in a number of the neighborhoods that we are working in, we're also healing neighborhoods with this work as well while we tackle this.
I work for the Department of Housing, and my main priority is selling city-owned property, but also working with neighborhoods to develop these implementation strategies as well as implementing those strategies. So I started I've been with the city 15 years. I started in EBDI and I've worked in Park Heights, and now I'm also working in Coldstream, Homestead, Montebello. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate this wonderful turnout. What we'd like to do, myself and our planner, Marie Anderson, who will introduce herself when she gets to her slide. We wanted to go over this implementation strategy with you, and then we're going to have facilitators. You may see a facilitator at your table. We raised our hands earlier. Where we'll be going through more specifically what things you'd like to see, how it relates to the implementation strategy. So, and I know these are some small maps. Again, we will definitely hand out the presentation tomorrow so that everyone can get a larger copy of it. But this is one of the maps. We have a great GIS team and mapping team, and they developed asset maps for us to show off all the amazing things that we have in our impact investment areas. And Coldstream, Homestead, Montebello is a beacon, if you will, of assets throughout the neighborhood and surrounding the neighborhood. You obviously have the historic Clifton Park with the mansion. You have commercial corridors around the Hartford Road area. You have some wonderful recreational assets and 2 brand new schools, as Mark mentioned. So we have, over 17, almost 20 things that represent assets in your neighborhood. The impact investment areas were started in 2019 through the DHCD Community Development Framework, and they're areas of the city that are poised for transformational revitalization at the neighborhood level based on their existing assets, current redevelopment activity, and proximity to the already shifting markets. The theory of the impact investment areas is that we can build from these strengths to revitalize these communities with concentrated investment, coordinated deployment of city services and resources, and by working directly with the neighborhood residents and stakeholders to develop data-based implementation strategies. We've been working with the community. This is one of the newer impact investment areas. So we've been working, myself and Marie have been working with Mark and John and Nicole and all the wonderful representatives of Coldstream, Homestead, Montebello since earlier this year. And we're developing that implementation strategy as we speak, as well as our project tracker, which we'll get to later. But our goal today is to broaden this conversation beyond just the work group, and also by sharing the work that we're doing with a larger audience. So the first thing I wanted to talk about with regards to the implementation strategy is what we call block level planning. That's going through the neighborhood and prioritizing things like homeownership, site assembly, and demolition and stabilization. So for example, in your neighborhood, a great example of site assembly and homeownership would be the Tivoli Eco-Village Triangle that we are currently actively working on. The city worked very diligently for about 5 or 6 years to do the majority of acquisition. We are completed acquisition on phase 1, as well as funded infrastructure. And now that project is going to have a focus of homeownership. So we are trying to bring new homeowners as one of the main goals of the Coldstream Homestead Montebello implementation strategy, is to strengthen homeownership in the neighborhood, both by finding new homeowners, but also supporting the existing legacy residents, which is also incredibly important for this work. Next, we have the community development zones. So in our world, everyone has to prioritize. We have a set amount of resources, and we have to decide, what do we want to do first? What is the area that we see strength that we can build off of? So in Coldstream Homestead Montebello, your zone 1 is around the Tivoli Triangle area, so it goes from the Alameda up to 31st Street. And you currently, as a single neighborhood, we have one master zone 1 that we are focusing on, but we also have a few zone 2s, which are obviously, as we work our way down, we'll focus as needs are and funding allows. When we think about what a zone 1 is, we're looking for areas of ongoing development, which is partially why we picked this area as a zone 1. We do have that large scale development there, and as well as a focus on homeownership via either new construction or rehab, which are both things that we are working on in the Coldstream Homestead Montebello area. Next, we have homeownership support. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. I work a lot, I work very closely with the Department of Homeownership, and we have a lot of amazing services that our department offers. We have the Housing Rehabilitation and Repairs Program through the LIGHT application. I don't know if any of you have ever filled out a LIGHT application, but that goes toward assisting with services for folks who may need a roof repair. If you're a senior that needs a new roof, we have a great HUBS program. There's a lot of fantastic programs within our LIGHT office. We also have the weatherization program, which allows implementation of energy efficient appliances, things like that, help ways to make your home more energy efficient, getting the light bulbs that are more energy efficient, getting your electric bill lower. We have the lead hazard reduction program. We actually have someone from the lead hazard reduction program team here. If you think you have an issue with lead in your home, that is something that we can help with. So we do have someone here from that program if you're interested. And then we also have things, like I said, to help existing homeowners with tax sale prevention. So obviously you have a very strong councilman in this area who has worked very diligently to protect homeowners. And one of the things that she has worked to pass is the mayor announced this year that no homeowners would face tax sale prevention. So that's a really fantastic, I'm going to give her a round of applause there because I think it's really important. And then we're also expanding into, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Baltimore Development Corporation, BDC. They're also working on facade improvements for businesses, local businesses, to help them. So they have a few programs as well that will help the businesses along the Hartford Road corridor. And finally, in the map world, we have our rehab toolkit. And these are the tools that we're going to utilize in order to reverse vacancy on blocks. So this is a sample block that I picked. I'm sure everyone here knows Frisco Park? Yes? Okay, so this is the area just south. This is the 1500 block of Abbotston and Carswell. This program is our CodeMap program that we use. I use it like Google practically every single day of my workday. But we've worked with Mark and the team to strategize which parts of the block do we want to see support for homeowners, which parts of the block do we want to see prioritized for stabilization, where do we want to see receivership, and where do we want to see city acquisition for site assembly and resale. So, like I said, I had mentioned our homeowner support services. Our stabilization and demolition team is often in the neighborhood assessing buildings. Our receivership program allows us, when we are acquiring property and selling property, you know, as many of you know, the vacancy issue in the city is not just city-owned vacants, but it's also privately owned vacants. So receivership allows us to sell privately owned vacant buildings through a nuisance abatement program with code enforcement. So it allows us to get properties out of the hands of negligent owners and into the hands of folks who want to rehab that property for resale. And we've got your property in your property next to you in receivership right now. Yes, we do. And then also we've been working on acquisition through tax sale foreclosure and in-rem. In-rem's kind of a funny word. Does anyone know what that means? Yeah, thank you, Councilman. So in-rem is basically fast forward on our tax sale process. You know, tax sale is done through the courts, so it can be a lengthy process. Sometimes it takes up to 18 months, 2 years. The in-rem process will cut that time frame down to 6 months when it is fully up. And we just did begin in-rem earlier this year, but it's off and running, and we're really excited to be able to bring into our inventory a lot of negligent properties so that we can sell them to folks who will rehab them and be under our vision, you know, under our care. We have things in our contract that make sure people finish a property within a year and remove that vacant building notice, things like that. So it will help immensely with the vacant building problem in some blocks of the city.
Hi folks, my name is Marie McSweeney Anderson, and I am the planner for the illustrious Northern District. So my district is from the city-county line down to Charles Village and Coldstream, Homestead, Montebello. On the west side, bordered by 83, and then on the east side, bordered by the Alameda. So I have 52 beautiful neighborhoods in my district, including Coldstream, Homestead, Montebello. But I think a very important thing to mention is that for the past 10 years, I was a community organizer in the Govans area. And so really when I think about planners, one of the things that I think about is the internal advocate in city government. And so I've been there on the ground, I've been doing the work on the ground, and now I'm inside organizing city government. And so one of the important things also to take away from this is that Coldstream, Homestead, Montebello is one of 7 areas in the entire city that is an impact investment area. So that means there are coordinated actions happening between city agencies that are happening here and only 6 other areas in the city. And so that is of the greatest importance, and one of the ways that we do this is through the project tracker. So we've all heard of master plans. How many folks have read through the 2006 master plan? All right, that's fine. I'm here, I did it. But one of the things about master plans is that a notion is that you do a plan and it sits on a shelf. And that's not what we're doing here. We're talking tonight about a strategy. And what does a strategy need? A strategy needs accountability, right? So something that we're moving forward, we're meeting every month as a work group, folks are coming together, and we're seeing where are we blocking, where are the blockages that we need to move past. So Kelly, if you can move forward the slide. This is very small, so y'all are gonna get this presentation. But unsurprisingly, at the very top of our project tracker is what? Tivoli. Tivoli. Sorry, I'm from Baltimore, but just a different part. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 projects just on Tivoli. Okay? And then the next up is the 2800 block of Hartford Road. We know that Hartford Road is an asset and it also needs some work, right? Next up, We know Morgan State University is coming to CHM, right? That's something to celebrate. But there also needs to be tabs, right? Kept on. Where's the progress? Where are we gonna start first? And then we have some of the scattered site acquisition that Kelly talks about. So y'all, we're coming together every month, reviewing this. And the importance of this conversation, we're having a conversation tonight, is that it will help to inform the implementation strategy and this project tracker. And we will not be starting from scratch. We have the master plan. We have all of the past documents. Mark Washington sent me all of the past documents that we will also be reviewing and incorporating. But there's been a whole pandemic, right? It's been over a decade since the master plan was put together. Things might have changed. Some things for the good, right? Some things for the better, but not everything. And so the conversation tonight is really going to be getting down to the nitty-gritty, and the notes that are coming from this conversation will help us prioritize what comes first. And so if you can move to the next slide. Oops, we missed a slide on there. The next slide was going to be it's okay, don't worry about it. But what we were gonna share is there's a website dedicated, there's a DHCD project tracker, and this is live, so that anyone here in this room, anyone beyond, if you wanna know what projects we're working on, if you wanna see the progress that we're making, you're able to access that information. So this isn't something that we're just gonna have this conversation tonight, we're gonna go back, we're gonna hide all the paperwork. It's gonna be something that's publicly facing.
I have a question. How do we access that tracker that you're showing?
Right, yeah, we're gonna send it out to you. Did everyone sign in tonight? I will also have you know that you will also begin receiving a weekly newsletter from me. I hope you enjoy it, about everything that's going on in the Northern Planning District as well. So it looks like Kelly is giving out personal. But I'm gonna let her talk a little bit about Tivoli. Because I know that's why a lot of folks are here tonight.
Right, so I know everyone is very eager to hear about the development site, and I'm assuming everyone is familiar or has been to a meeting or two about this development project. But this is a really special project. It's going to be the very first net zero homeownership community in the city. So, you know, you're getting innovation, you're getting brand new infrastructure to support environmentally sound homes. Net zero means if you follow all the guidelines of the home, you will not have an electric bill. So it's very important, you know, that's saving you up to $200 a month that you don't have to send to BGE, which is always exciting. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the construction of them. So again, these are going to be single-family homes. We're also going to have a community center and a resilience hub, which will have areas to plug your car in. It'll have a generator for power outages, things like that. The first phase is going to be along Tivoli Avenue. I'm sorry, Tivoli. I'm also from a different part. But I can draw a map of Park Heights with my eyes shut. I was dared, and I did. So I'll get there. I'll get there with this area. So the first phase is the 2700 block of Tivoli, and then the second phase will be the 2700 blocks of Hugo, Fenwick, and portions of the 17th through 1900 block of East 28th Street.